Welcome to Come On You Reds, the definitive Toronto FC podcast. This is episode 228, and we're feeling great despite the results not going TFC's way this week. Gareth Wheeler, alongside Mr. Orange County Chopper himself, the man on the motorcycle. He is Terry Dunfield. We're going to address TFC's latest two results, Canada games upcoming at BMO Field, which TFC players might be in the mix for that. Some unfortunate news when it comes to Ralph Prizo, and get your vaccinations, please and thank you, to get into BMO Field sometime in the not so distant future. How's your week, Terry? How are you? I feel like I haven't seen you in a while because you're just cruising the province on your bougie motorcycle there.
If only, man. It's time's flying with just the football industry full steam right now. Games, training in the academy, prepping for games on telly. It's exciting times, and then some big Canada games ahead. So super busy.
Terry is so busy. I'm pulling back the curtain here because Terry is my boy. We're good buddies, both on and off air. I got a baby stag coming up this weekend. And if you're not familiar with what a baby stag is, it's when you go out and celebrate the birth of your first child, and you and the boys or you and your friends go out just to have that one last night or one last party before reality sets in. And my reality is coming quickly, Terry. It's coming like the beginning of October. So we're headed out this weekend, and you're too busy with the academy and this and that to join me. What's up with that, Dad? What's up?
Is the game plan Niagara still?
I think we're going to go down to Niagara. It's easy. Casino, restaurants. It's easy.
Golf.
Some wine country.
I'll be honest. I had to Google baby stag to know what a baby stag was. But
I'd be scared about what would have come up there.
Yeah, seriously. Yeah, good point. There were some good visuals, and then next, like, what's the etiquette? Do I stay in the group chat now that I said I can't make it? Do I drop out?
I think I might have to do a side pocket group chat because the numbers are dwindling as we speak. But
I'm sure it'll be
it's quality, not quantity. You will be missed, and we're overdue for a good hang, buddy. Look, this week, it's been another tough one for Toronto FC because I don't think the team has played poorly at all, but back-to-back losses by a goal in each, a 2-1 loss to New England Revolution at BMO Field last weekend, and then Wednesday night falling 1-0 to Atlanta United down in Hotlanta. That's 3 losses in 4 games, Terry. Let's address big picture, then we'll kind of go into the specifics on those games, because just a couple podcasts ago, we were thinking they're picking up points. We're at the midway point of the season. It's going to be tough to go on and get to that 45-ish point threshold, which should be good enough for a playoff spot. But these 3 results not going their way, it's really kind of put them in a big hole. And it's unfortunate because the football hasn't been all that bad. What's your big takeaway from these most recent games?
Same as yours. I think the performances in particular against New England and Atlanta were excellent. The word I'd use, they were solid. We were connected. We didn't give a whole bunch away. I wouldn't say we sliced and diced New England and Atlanta, but we created solid half chances and enough half chances where we probably deserved a couple more goals. We gave up probably some crappy goals, if I'm honest, and I thought the goal was a little bit lucky, the deflection last night. And it seems as though when you're near the bottom of the league, these things seem to happen. And I was noodling on it last night. What's the why behind that? Why does New England get that little bit of luck at the top of the league, and why, when we need a little bit of luck, we don't seem to get it? And I think it just comes to almost like a confidence and a mindset piece, in that you just get a little bit closer in those 1v1 duels when you're defending, or you might send an extra body forward and get another number in the box, or take a little bit more risk, or play with a little bit more freedom because you're maybe not worried about losing the ball in transition. And over 90 plus minutes, maybe those fine margins are what are hurting us right now. But I agree with what Javier Perez said in his post-game press conference last night, post-Atlanta, that all we can do is keep focusing on the process and the performance. And I know we're running out of time, and the fans need results right now. I get that. I understand that. But from a technical side, I think the team is actually in a very good place. I like the change and the rotation and the freshness brought into the side last night. I get the thinking behind that. And it's hard to steadfast right now, but that has to be the case in the messaging.
It's been tough, and we've covered it on this podcast and beyond. You know, being in Orlando, making that transition back, you got that initial lift, but it just seems like, and you're right, Terry. I think that luck might have something to do with it, but you also make your own luck. There also is the attention to detail, and you know, you have a new head coach in place right now that's trying to basically on the fly bring this team together and try to get the most out of it while also keeping the long-term picture in mind as well. So it hasn't been easy. We might as well kind of walk through the week that was, because we were coming off the high last time we did this pod of that 2-2 draw against New York City FC, which really kind of felt like a win. You were buried in the first half, but the second half response was outstanding. And that was the first big call of the week by Javier Perez, sticking with the team that brought Toronto FC back into that game and earned them the point. And that was the big talking point heading into the Revolution game, the fact that Parisot was going to start once again in the midfield and Achara was going to start again up top. And I know the result didn't end up going Toronto FC's way, but it seemed like a proper follow-up. You were rewarding the players. It brought those legs into the team where I think that they've needed it, quite frankly, especially at this stage of the season, just a little bit more life, a little bit more energy. And it's a brave decision keeping a player like Michael Bradley on the bench, wasn't it?
It was. And it was almost like the methodology when I first went over to England and I was young, at the Alex Ferguson days, that if you play well, you keep the shirt. And I think that was the precedent that Javier Perez set in that moment. And Ralph was given the reins to the team. Michael Bradley was on the bench. Personally, I think New England, top of the league, at home, Bradley's fresh. I thought that was a big decision. And you could go either way with that one. And unfortunately, when you talk about that little bit of luck, the flag doesn't go up, and now Ralph's injured and Michael comes straight back into the team. You don't even get to see how this look plays out, which is a little bit disappointing. And I thought Ralph looked good too till he got injured. Yeah.
With Michael Bradley, the commitment that he brings to the team is like second to none. I was in the stadium, obviously covering it from the press box, and just looking down at Michael. He was living and dying with every play. When the players were warming up, just along the touchline, and the ball would come over, Michael was running over he was the first one there. This is a 34-year-old player that's been there, done everything in the game. And I just love that attitude. And I think that can oftentimes be contagious when it's kind of funneled and used in the right way. And he ended up coming on to the game. And when you think about the number of games that he's played for Toronto FC, I think it's like 239 games after last night. That was just only the second time he's been substituted into a game. And just think about the ridiculous amount of football that is being played. I understand the need to rotate a player that's coming off a double surgery, a little bit older. Like he's not Superman anymore. It's just too difficult, right? Like just the demands are too much. But I'm kind of with you on that. And in a game like that, starting Michael maybe wouldn't have been such a bad idea against such an experienced team, and a team that's kind of running away with top spot in the Eastern Conference as well. I think it actually worked out for Perez the way that it worked, because Parisot did play very well alongside Delgado and Osorio, but there was something to think about there. And perhaps this was more of an overarching message or showing the direction that the team is going to go for the rest of the season, rather than something pragmatic in that moment.
Yeah, for sure. I think our opinions maybe are going against the grain. I think the fan base a little bit wanted to see what the team looks like without Michael. And, fair play to Michael for dealing with this. I think he has been the heart and soul of our franchise for the last 5-6 years. It's why we have so many trophies. And then to be left out is difficult, but what a great example for the young players at the club, the way he handled it. And I just think that with Michael, game 2, game 3 in a week, those are the moments where maybe that we bring some freshness in the team. But I still think he's got to be one of the pillars in our 11. And it's a really tricky one to manage. But I'm gutted that Ralph Prizzo picks up that injury and maybe unnecessarily.
Let's deal with that in a moment. It's conceding the first goal in the game that's really crushed TFC this year. And it happened again in the 20th minute. Just a player not closed down, not quite enough on the cross. And then Tajon Buchanan from Brampton, Ontario. You've watched it with the Canadian men's national team. Just absolutely rose up high above Soteldo, headed it home. Alex Bono got a piece. I don't think the goalkeeper could have done any better. It's just the way that ball was hit. It was just so good. And Buchanan scores the opening goal, does his trademark double backflip. He was wanting to do that. He had like 50, 60 friends and family in the crowd. And I actually kind of love it that Toronto FC fans went on and booed the player. Like, he's one of our own. He's Canadian. He's going to be at BMO in September for World Cup qualifiers. But I love that idea, like, club before country. Like, this is about TFC right now. This isn't about Canada. So they let him hear it. And I actually appreciated that.
Yeah, it was a good header. It was a difficult header off his back foot. It kind of loops over Bono. Nothing he can do. When you talk about expected goals, like, it's a 0.07 chance. Like, it's TFC are comfortable when the ball's wide on the left-hand side. That's a play that shouldn't go in. That puts us in a difficult spot. But yeah, you could see it was an emotional celebration from him for sure. And it was just pure passion. And, he's been waiting to play in front of his friends and family at BMO Field for a long, long time. We overlooked him in the draft. And you know what? You could see there was a message behind that goal as well.
Yeah, it's one of those things. You're like, oh man, if Tajon was drafted by Toronto FC, TFC went with Griffin Dorsey instead. In retrospect, a miss right there. There's no question about that. But who knows how that player would have developed if he landed somewhere else, right? It's about circumstance. It's about opportunity. And he's made the most. And now he's staring down a significant move to a European club and has become a fixture of the Canadian men's national team. So from that perspective, it's hard to complain about the process there. But a big moment for Tajon where you're like, oh, Tajon. But then he scores on Wednesday night against DC United. You're like, Tajon!
You know what? If he scores the winner to take us to Qatar, and
it's so forgetting.
And you know what? Maybe taking the big picture look, and that for Tajon's development on and off the field, for him to leave Toronto and get away from home, maybe that was the best decision for Tajon.
I've had that conversation with them. I know it is. And I've had that conversation with a number of people at the club as well. And just about, some players need to get out of the comfort zone, need to get out of their own backyard and go off and have an experience somewhere else. And it's paying dividends for Tajon Buchanan. TFC didn't find an equalizer in the second half. It's a really well-worked goal from set pieces under Javier Perez, Terry, it'd be much better. We talked about the Gonzalez goal a couple of weeks ago in Atlanta, almost a quick set piece taken. Patrick Mullins, his header landed on top of the net, and just a short set piece, 1-2 played as the chemistry is starting to come together between Soteldo and Pozuelo, plays it to the far post. And Jonathan Osorio is there to tap it home. Oso is now TFC's leading scorer on the season, which is full credit to Oso, but less than ideal in terms of when you're looking for that out and out number 9, but it's a really well-worked goal by TFC.
Yeah. Oso, almost 2018-esque is just drifting into great spots. And technically he's so good. And if he keeps putting himself in good spots, he's going to have 10 goals before you know it. My key takeaway on the goal was the pass from Pozuelo. I get what you're saying about the structure under Javier Perez on restarts is excellent, and it's leading to different options within that framework. And Pozuelo still has a lot to do. A lot of players in that moment just fizzle it across the box, but I believe his awareness, vision, and like Oso, his technique and execution is that good. He actually picks Oso out for a tap in. The pass to Oso was off the charts ridiculous.
Yeah. Problem was you score the goal, and this has happened against Nashville. It's happened countless times this year. You get the momentum. The crowd is feeling it. The crowd is into it. They're sensing that, the play is only going one direction. 2 minutes later, penalty given. And in the 83rd minute, penalty scored, Toronto FC down 2-1. And the way that it played out, Zavaleta got caught in behind the player. His arms were out. I think it was a straightforward call for the referee to make. But how the ball got to the foot of Adam Buksa, it bounced off and in between legs and through legs. It just, I'm not even sure watching it back how it actually got to his feet. And it was just so awkward in the way that it played out. It's so typical of this TFC season.
Yeah, it's a horrible one. I think in that moment too, the game's there for you. Your mindset's changed to, okay, we can get 3 points here. We need 3 points. We've spoken about urgency in previous games at BMO Field and that we want to go on and win games and not take a point. So I think that's maybe going through players' minds. And it's just a rush of blood to the head of Zavaleta. It's a penalty. It's a crap goal, like you said. And it's just, going, if you look at the match as a whole and big picture and the performance, it was okay. I'd say a point would have been fair for both sides and probably something to build on going into Atlanta. But because the position we're in, we're chasing it a little bit, and there's nothing to take from the game now.
Yeah. Well, the only other takeaway was the unfortunate Priso injury. You mentioned it. Perez spoke about it post-game. It drives me absolutely bonkers when you see this play out. And I know that it's mandated by MLS officials, and I understand why, that assistant referees are encouraged not to put up their flag if they're not sure if a player's offside or not. Let VAR decide, because once that whistle blows, the play is dead, and you want to make sure that you give every opportunity for the referees to get the call right and the play to go on and carry on as usual. But the player was 3 yards offside, Terry, right at midfield, nowhere near the Toronto FC goal. The flag doesn't go up. The play plays out. Priso runs back, does in his ankle. He ends up clearing the ball off the line. And then it was like 10 seconds later, the flag goes up. It's like, yeah, he said, the referee confirms what everyone inside BMO Field and what everyone is watching at home is thinking, that the player's offside. Like, there needs to be common sense that prevails. Right? You shouldn't just use that ability to use VAR to make every decision. If we go that way, then it's tennis, right? Where they've kind of used the Hawkeye technology for serves and balls in and out, where it's just the voice of God comes out. It's like false. Like, that's not where we're at with this game. If it's a clear and obvious play, that flag needs to go up right away. And because of that, it looks unfortunate, but it seems like the Priso injury might be more serious than what was initially expected.
It's a tricky one. I think I'm going to go against the grain on this one. I agree. When you look back at it, and hindsight's awesome, that it didn't need to happen. If the flag goes up, Ralph's not injured now. Hypothetically, you're now going to start to give away. Decisions will be wrong, and close ones where linesmen or assistant referees are told to keep their flag down. They're going to start making a decision, and that they don't necessarily have to. We can let technology make that decision. And the downside to it is potentially a play goes on and there's risk for injury. But what we are going to get is 99.9% of the time, the decision is going to be correct. And I'd say big picture, and it's a tough one on Ralph, I'd rather the decision be right and that little bit of risk of injury.
fair play. And someone asked me the question, and it's a fair question to ask. How many players have ended up, getting injured with the flag staying down? I appreciate that. But this was clear and obvious. And the referee needs to trust his or her eyes, right? Like, let's be honest here.
Then what I'd say here, Wheels, is you're going against the process now. And the process is, unless you're 100%, and it's easy for you up in the booth where you're looking down on everything and you can see that it's clear and obvious, but with your job on the line and your process telling you, unless you know for sure, that flag staying down, and maybe the assistant referee didn't know.
But in fairness, the assistant referee is looking straight across the field. And when the ball's at midfield, that's what he's looking at. Like, for me, that was just such an easy call to make. And if you're not going to call the easy ones, then I think it's just a massive, find the entire process it's just completely unnecessary the way that it plays out. How many times are you sitting there watching from home? You're offside. You and everyone knows that it's offside, but they've just let the play continue needlessly.
The frustrating part for me is I can never celebrate a goal because you're always waiting for it to come back.
Bingo. And even with VAR, what we've come to establish is that we still disagree on calls that are made and that aren't made. So it's subjective in its own right. Look, like the Premier League for this upcoming season has changed their offside rule, where that thin line is now being made to be a thick line.
One size is a bit bigger.
tie kind of goes to the runner now. I think that this is in practice, it's just not. It doesn't play out as effective as it does in theory. And I think that this is just one of those areas where the league and Howard Webb, they do a great job. Honestly, the way that MLS uses VAR is superior to just about anyone else on the planet. But that's just one of those other areas that they can kind of tinker and take the game forward. Because now we lose Ralph, a 19-year-old emerging talent, a local talent, an exciting player for an unknown duration of time. And that is a tough pill to swallow.
Yeah. I like that thresholds are going down on penalties, handballs.
Yep.
I think that's what the fans want. So fair play for leagues finding a way to kind of take that feedback on board. But to your Ralph point, man, it's a tough one to swallow. He's worked really hard for these minutes. They haven't been given to them. He's earned them. His trajectory's through the roof. He's flying. This will be a tough one to swallow. And during his academy career, he had a couple years of injuries in and around that ankle area. And, you're back into that gym, and he'll find out a lot about himself. There'll be some dark days in there for sure, knowing he can help the team. And he was flying, but he can still bottle that feeling up and work hard to get that feeling back.
Just one more thing from that game on Saturday night, unless you have something else you want to add. Shout out to Ashley Lawrence, the Canadian women's national team player. She was in attendance with her gold medal. She was hanging out with Maria Papadakis. It was great to see. Ashley Lawrence is such a good player. It's ridiculous watching her play because she could probably be the best player on the field at every position. She plays right back. She plays left back. She can play in the midfield. I'm sure she could play in attack as well. It's just very rare that you see a player that's so capable in so many different ways. So shout out to Ashley Lawrence. It was great to see her in attendance.
Yeah, so cool. Our women should be dinner speaking for the rest of their life when their career is over. It's
dinner speaking. What is dinner speaking? Speaking at dinners, you mean?
Yeah, I guess Zoom. Now, but it's still hard to believe seeing that gold medal. It's incredible what our women have accomplished, and are continuing to push for too. That there's a real ecosystem over here in North America, so that there's more opportunity for more women and girls to grow. Yep,
it just needs to be presented, applied in the right way that's sustainable and works for everyone. But I'm sure that is upcoming in the not so distant future. And obviously COVID has presented all kinds of challenges. We're just about to get back into the Canadian Championship on the men's side for the first time. We'll discuss that a little bit more in future pods. As TFC still have work to do. Let's address Wednesday night, the 1-0 loss to Atlanta. And the team selection for Perez jumped off the page again. 7 changes to the starting 11, including both fullbacks. Lorea pushed forward. Both DPs and Soteldo and Pozuelo start the game on the bench. Altidore unavailable. Chris Mavinga still unavailable for personal reasons, it was said. Widespread changes, and it was great to see Quentin Westberg come back in and get some playing time. He's done nothing wrong. Alex Bono really has done nothing wrong, despite the goals that have been shipped. They've been collectively conceded by the team rather than on the goalkeeper. And TFC's first time back in a place that actually brought good memories, 2019 Eastern Conference Final, their first trip down there since that time. And overall, I think that it was another slow start for Toronto FC in this game, but it was a team that grew into the game, and I've just felt ended up outplaying Atlanta United. Just the finish in the end just simply wasn't there. It let them down. It betrayed them on the night. They concede first again, the 16th straight game that Toronto FC has conceded a goal. I've been on this for weeks. This is a new club record in a season for games not coming away with a clean sheet, and just another hill just too difficult to climb for TFC, Terry.
Yeah, it was, I'd say we more than huffed and puffed. I'd say that in the second half, especially after Soteldo Pozuelo chances, the goal was going to come from us. And if we got one, I thought another one was going to come. Pozuelo had a couple of very good half chances that we weren't able to convert. Defensively, we looked solid. We weren't open in transition. And we started to find some spaces and some pockets in that Atlanta United side. Just going back to what you said, a little bit of background coming into the game. If I'm in that coach's room, I've got Atlanta on Wednesday, Inter Miami on Saturday. How do I navigate through those games with kind of freshness being a guiding principle, I think? And I like the changes, the 7 changes. It brings a freshness. I think if I'm Alex Bono, I know I'm flying. I'm okay to be left out for a game when things are going well. I thought our build against Atlanta was going to be important. Okay, up steps Westberg. Nothing he could do on the goal, but I thought he helped us once we started to play out of the back after the first 20 minutes, big time. And I think by resting Pozuelo and Soteldo, you've got them for the back end of Atlanta, but you've also got them fresh for the start of Inter Miami on Saturday. And if I look at the 2 games, I would say Inter Miami, there's 3 points there for us for sure. And if we get a point at Atlanta, that's okay. But let's finish strong in Atlanta, carry momentum on to Inter Miami, and we'll play our best side on Saturday. So I think that was the thinking behind it. And, you know, part of the downside maybe to that is, or what you'd expect, is the first 20 minutes, Wheels, to not be perfect. These guys haven't played a ton together. The shape's a little bit different. And once they kind of grasp that, I would say that we were the better side. We were in control. And once we kind of got through Atlanta's momentum in the first 20 minutes, we were doing well. And the goal kind of comes out of nowhere. Yeah.
And unfortunately, Eric Zavaleta was involved. Again, I mentioned this to you a couple podcasts, or maybe it was the last podcast, that him being shifted over to the left-hand side, I just don't think he's comfortable in that position yet. He's played on the right side his entire career. Again, maybe just gives Barco a little bit too much space, does the right thing, and then inevitably steps to the player. Just unfortunately comes off his foot and goes into the back of the net.
Yeah, Martinez had a half chance at the near post that doesn't go in. Then we go the other way. We get our press wrong. Barco, who's not going to run away from you, makes a run in behind in that kind of half space channel. And now Zavaleta's got a choice here, Wheels. What do you do in this moment? Do you show him to the line to his right foot? We had lots of bodies back. They didn't have a player in the box. Or do you show him to his weak foot, allowing him to cut inside? Zavaleta said, you know what, we'll bring him onto his weak foot, which is okay, kind of by the textbook, I guess. The shot comes off from Barco. If there's no deflection, Westberg picks it, catches it. Problem. A little bit like Buchanan's header. It's got a little bit of top spin on it because of deflection, and it just loops in to the top corner. And at that moment, you're like, this could go one of 2 ways. This could turn to 4 or 5 real quick, and we feel sorry for ourselves, or we continue to, trust in the process and play. And I thought full credit to the guys. They continue to push forward.
The talent in the Atlanta team jumps off the page, but there was a little bit of swagger when there shouldn't be from that team. They're not in a playoff spot right now. They've run one head coach out of town. Another one's coming in. Like Joseph Martinez trying that audacious scorpion kick at the end of the first half. Like, I'm sorry. It would have been spectacular if he hit it. There was no chance. He was more likely to hurt himself than the ball finding the back of the net. I love seeing that sort of thing, but I think it was kind of indicative of the game, like him looking around at Barco and all this like outstanding attacking talent in the team. There was absolutely zero care to defend by Atlanta United on the night. They were saying TFC come at us. I couldn't believe how wide open they were, and they were only up a goal. It was unreal. Yeah. Have you ever tried a scorpion kick like that before?
No. Have you?
No, absolutely not.
So a couple of things. I think that was part of our lineup, that we wanted a team with some athleticism, that the game was going to be open. I think Javier Perez expected that. And in transition, I thought we got down the sides of them a couple of times, overloaded their wing backs or exposed that space when they got forward. We got into that space just in front of their back threes a couple of times in transition. But to your point about Martinez, I think you've got two kinds of players, and this is like super simplifying it. You've got your free spirits, your creative players, guys that you're thinkers, and those players you don't want to tell what to do, because they then become convergent and you're taking away some of their superpowers. It's like telling you what to do, man. You don't tell you what to do. You know what I mean?
Put it in the suggestion box.
Yeah, I put it in the suggestion box. Let it marinate for a bit. Maybe you get there, maybe you don't. But that's how you roll. And I'd say Atlanta have a lot of players like that. And then you've got a couple of convergent players that are going to execute a game plan. And that they're their players kind of in their back three. Maybe they're holding midfielder, but there's a lot of ingredients. It's a tricky one to get right. If you do get it right, man, they could be an exciting team to watch, like Tata Martino's team. But at times, you can see players kind of all doing their own thing, maybe not in the right moment. There's a lot of chefs in that kitchen as well. And I think Javier Perez recognized that before the game.
Yeah, you're right. The triple change in the 53rd minute almost changed things. Just TFC kind of came out of their structure. Lorea dropped back a little bit deeper, and on came Pozuelo and Soteldo. And that chance in the 60th minute where the ball's laid off, he hits it with his left foot, and it's curling towards the top corner. Oh. If that was last season, it's in the back of the net, right? Like Pozuelo's form and fitness, it's just not quite to the level where it was a season ago. But last year, no doubt, you're picking that ball out of the back of the net, unquestionably.
Yeah, it's really an interesting one, that moment. I've thought about it. I went for a walk this morning and watched the first half back again and looked at that a couple times. And I think last season, it's implicit. He doesn't even think about it. And he just passes it into the back of the net. And did he overthink it? Did he try to do too much with it and stick it right into the top corner where he didn't have to? I don't know, but I agree with you that that's a routine finish for him when he's in form.
The other chance was when the long ball was played and Soteldo picked it up at midfield. It's him and Lorea 2-on-2. That's just the one missing link to Soteldo's game. It's the decision making, but I want to bring it up. In fairness, Pozuelo didn't do him any favors because he had the ability to be the third man in attack. And oftentimes the third man's the most dangerous player. But instead of sprinting down that right-hand side, it was a little bit more of a jog, Terry. And it was almost like Lorea was to his left. Soteldo will draw the iron because he didn't play the ball. But Pozuelo, man, if Soteldo continues his run to the left and Pozuelo's on his horse getting forward, that ball goes to pause and that's a goal. So it's these small margins. Like that's what it is right now. And that's what's turning these potential draws into losses. And the draws that you're picking up, they could be wins. It's the small margins right now.
Yeah, it was an interesting one. That I thought the picture was always a little bit messy. Maybe Richie's run could have been a little bit wider. Potsuelo, Richie, and Soltado all have completely different skill sets. We know Potsuelo isn't our guy that's going to bomb forward and make an extra number up in the attack. Having said that, a couple weeks ago he scores off the Achara cross. But yeah, in these moments, just a little bit more, I don't want to use the word ruthlessness, but we need to start capitalizing and taking our kind of half chances or creating a little bit, just a nicer opening, a nicer look at goal.
Yeah. This was also a game where I'm like, man, if Io Akinola was available, just there's a goal. There's a goal there. I just, that Akinola loss, I think it was maybe a little bit understated what that injury has kind of meant for Toronto FC with Altidore in and out of the team, the fitness an issue there. This was Akinola's time to kind of break out and be the main man. And because of that injury, Terry, I don't know how you feel about that, but it leaves a hole in that position, doesn't it?
No, I agree. I thought Mullins worked hard up top. Same with
Absolutely.
But I'd say Io in transition, his threat in behind would have been helpful. I thought Atlanta have, that back three, once they're kind of set, they're difficult to break down. And having Potsuelo Soteldo does help. But yeah, Io's, like Ralph, tough loss for sure.
Shout out to Pat Mullins, because that Pozuelo chance was created by Mullins working hard, winning back the ball, and then it going the other way. I'm totally with you on that. He's working hard and he puts in an effort, and I thought he played well last night. Perhaps the biggest and brightest story, two Canadians returning to the starting 11, Jacob Schappelberger's first time starting since the beginning of July, and Noble Okello. I thought he was played very well, Terry. His first start since April 24th. This is a big time for Noble Okello. For the clubs, from the club's perspective, figuring out what you have in the player, how ready he actually is. And for the player, go out and make a name for yourself. Like, there's been a lot of hype around you. The talent, the ability is there. It's plain to be seen. Go out and show us. And now the opportunity is going to come with Liam Fraser on loan, with Prizo out. And I thought he responded and played very well last night. What are your thoughts on Noble?
Exactly the same. I thought Noble was outstanding. I thought he really understood his role and quietly had a very solid game. And he didn't try to do too much. I think he's starting to fill out his frame a little bit. He's becoming powerful in there. I like him playing in a 2. Is probably his best position. I don't think we saw him earlier on in the year against who was it?
I think it was Montreal or Vancouver.
No, in the Champions League.
Leon.
Against Club Leon, he played in that number 10 Deco role and, would drift in and out of the games and was a handful in there. But I'd say big picture, him playing in a 2 just ahead of the back 4 is his best spot. I think he is a big body, obviously, but he gets the stuff that a lot of players don't. And he's got a real presence in the middle of the park. He breaks stuff up. He's very comfortable in possession. I thought in possession, he was purposeful. He wasn't just winning it and then giving it to someone that could play. I thought he was setting up attacks. It was definitely a performance wheels that he's set like a bar now that's very achievable and repeatable. And if he can grow from there, you could have a top holding midfielder.
Yeah, and this might be the saving grace from what's been a difficult season, being able to figure that out. I think that TFC knows what they have in Prizo now. I think it's quite clear that his trajectory. Achara coming back into the team. There's a lot of life. There's a player there for Toronto FC. Absolutely. I want to see a little bit more. I think it's time that we see a little bit more Luke Singh, Terry. He's looked good when he's given the chance. I'd like to see him get a little bit more of a chance. And players like Jaquil Marshall-Rutty, like when he's fit, when he's ready to come into the team, I think that you have to see what he can bring. And if you're not going to be a playoff team this season, then you have to go out and see what you have.
Yeah, and I think, or that's how I made my debut in the Premier League, was City were going to be relegated. The season's done. Okay, let's see what our young guys can do for next year. Let's really give them a chance. And I don't think we're quite there yet. I still think that we can put together a run, and trusting in our maybe more established pros is important, with still having some of the freshness and youthfulness of some of our young guys. But maybe in 2-3 games, if we're not able to turn this around, we now see a lot of minutes for our younger players.
Well, let's get straight to that. TFC remained 14th, bottom of the table on 15 points. They're 12 points back of a playoff spot. That's 6th and 7th place, DC United and Montreal. TFC's next 3 games, all away from home, but all, in my opinion, winnable games despite that. Miami on Saturday, next Friday night, CF Montreal, and then Cincinnati. All those teams are 7th place or below in the Eastern Conference. I look at these 3 games, Terry, and this has to be the mindset here. Must win, must win, must win. 9 points is a near must right now. I know mathematically that's not the case, but let's be honest here. 3 teams that you need to jump over for a playoff spot, you need to come away with wins in all these games.
Yeah, I'd say Inter Miami for sure is a team a little bit like us. That there's been some good stuff, and there's also been some stuff where it's not been at the level, and expectations at that club are very high. CF Montreal derby game, anything can happen, and then Cincinnati are better maybe than what the perception is. That'll be a tough game, but again, just continue focusing on the process. And maybe when you come into a 3-game spell like this, I think winning the first game is very important, and then building upon that.
Wonky things happen. With that being said, I mean, New England is on 46 points. They're 14 points up, 2nd place in the East, Nashville. So they're running away. They're running away with the Supporters' Shield. I think that Nashville at 32, New York, Philadelphia, Orlando on 31. Those are all quality teams, Terry. I don't think any of the top 5 will drop out. So essentially, there's those 2 playoff spots available. DC United, Montreal. Columbus Crew have now lost 5 games in a row. Then there's Atlanta, Red Bull, Chicago, Miami, Cincinnati, Toronto. So there's 2 spots up for grabs there. Is a 12-point gap too much? Potentially at this point, but I'm with you. It's not time to throw in the towel. Not quite yet.
No, especially the way we're playing right now. And I just reinforce all the good behaviors, the good sequences, all the good actions. You've got freshness coming into Inter Miami. And we play a lot of the teams in the East as well. You put together a run, and all of a sudden, maybe we're 6 points adrift.
So TFC falls both games this week. They take on Inter Miami Saturday night down in South Florida. Let's deal with some news and notes quickly before we wrap here. TFC 2, they're making a push here. They come away with a 2-2 draw on Wednesday night as well. Kobe Franklin, congratulations, his first TFC 2 goal. Julian Altobelli, the former CPL player, scored a goal as well. Just quietly going about their business, 3rd place in the division. And it's, if you look at the table, the USL table they're playing, it's absolutely insane. Like there's like 8 teams that are separated by like 2 points.
Yeah, it's I think a shout out's got to go to Bill Manning, who helped find a way for TFC2 to have a season this year. And let's not forget, this team played Saturday, Wednesday for like 12 weeks straight, based in Arizona, navigated through that. I think that brought the team together. They're now playing home games at BMO Training Ground, which is great. I love this Friday afternoon slot at 4 p.m. Watch that before a little academy training. But this team has some grit to it. I think the culture's right now at TFC2. It's a very young team. Academy players are coming through. And look, you're away in Madison after a long-ass bus trip. And you're 2-1 down. And to show that fight to come back in it, and Kobe Franklin, a player to watch out for sure, not just to make it 2-2. It keeps you in the hunt, keeps Madison below you. Another player to watch out for, Kosi Thompson's been excellent as well. So Mike Munoz, Danny Dicchio doing great stuff at TFC2.
TFC not back at BMO Field till September 14th, but we hope that you will be. Canada World Cup qualifiers, September 2nd against Honduras, a few days later against El Salvador. Both will be played here at BMO Field. I'm hoping to see many of you down there supporting Canada. This has long been the story in our own stadiums, supporters full in voice, supporting the other team. And that's going to be natural in a multicultural city like this. It can make for quite the atmosphere and environment, to be fair, but we need strong Canadian voices in that stadium to get behind our team on this quest for Qatar. 14 games, Terry. There's going to be a significant number of those games played right here in Toronto. So get out and support Canada. Tickets went on sale on Wednesday. Limited tickets available.
Yeah, just think back like when we were in the Zoom world and how desperate we were for soccer and how much we missed it. And it's sometimes a little bit tricky to kind of get out of the pandemic routine, I guess. But there's, man, it's class when you're down at BMO Field supporting TFC, supporting Canada. And, if I put my ex-player hat on, have it BMO Field packed, and it's a special feeling, and the boys need your support for sure.
No kidding. If you can't get down there, if you're watching from afar, you can check us out. Terry and I will have the call with our One Soccer crew on One Soccer. Cannot wait to be back at BMO. Last time Terry and I were at BMO calling a game, Cavalieri! Canada 2-0. I can't wait to be back down there with you, buddy. Also, you probably heard the news over recent days that there's going to be new proof of vaccination or a negative COVID testing that you're going to need to have or bring with you to get into MLSC buildings, Scotiabank Arena, BMO Field, to attend events. This is the case across the board with Live Nation. It's the trend. It's where we are going. So if you haven't been encouraged before to get vaccinated, please absolutely consider it. And there'll be more information on how this will all work for you, the match-going fan, in the coming weeks. But we do have the coming days and weeks, and we have time, obviously, ahead of TFC returning home on September 14th, which will either be a league game or a Canadian Championship game. We'll see. The Canadian Championship is back up and running. Keep your eye on it. I mean, so far, Cavalry from Calgary got past Edmonton. We had Halifax get past the semi-professional team in Blainville. TFC will play the winner of York United, which will be a very cool local derby at BMO Field when it happens, or Masters football. It's another semi-pro team, League One team here in Ontario. A former player, Rick Titus, is the coach of that team. Jamie Peters, a former professional player, he's in the mix. He's playing as well. So there's going to be a local flavor, whoever Toronto FC plays. And look, if TFC do find themselves out of a playoff spot, this is your road into the Champions League. And this tournament will be exceptionally important when it comes about for Toronto FC this campaign.
Sounds good. I'm excited to go to that Masters York 9 game.
Yeah, they're York United now, not York 9.
York United.
Yeah. And they're on some good form as well. And some former TFC Academy players involved with that team as well. So looking forward to that. Anything else, Terry? I was supposed to rib you on the show today as we all await for Harry Kane to potentially just maybe land with Manchester City. He's probably seen their new third kit and said, I'm not going anymore. Never mind losing to Spurs last weekend, or Spurs beating City last weekend. The new Man City third kit. Like, we all love to see the new TFC kits when they come out year to year. MLS, please do not go down the road of getting rid of a logo, putting Man City on a t-shirt that looks like something that you give away at a coaching clinic. What do you make of that, Terry?
Yeah, it's
abysmal.
It's a tough kit. When I saw it on Twitter, I just kept scrolling down.
You're like, that can't be real. Can't be real.
No. You just go quick. It's not happening. Yeah, Harry Kane's an interesting one. I'm just not sure on the economics and his age and whether that's going to make sense. I still think Grealish. I love him. I think he's a top player, and I think he deserves the opportunity in City's side. But $100 million, the market's crazy right now.
Yeah. It sounds like Lewandowski might want to go somewhere. $100 million for 33-year-old Lewandowski. I know he's good, but $100 million, like that is a lot. By the way, I did the same thing with the Manchester United third kit last year that looked like the zebra. I was like, this can't be real. This isn't real. Oh my God, it is real.
The worst ever kit was the Man United sharp gray kit. Do you remember when that one came out?
And I think Sir Alex made them go change it at halftime.
It looked like, for anyone that's remembers terrestrial TV over in the UK, it was like Channel 5. You know when you can't quite get Channel 5 and it's gray and it's just gross because there's no signal.
I get the reference. I'm not sure if our listeners get the reference, but I understand it as well.
Kiboshed it, didn't he?
Yeah, he did. Proper leadership right there from the manager. So the Premier League's up and running. The Canadian Premier League's up and running. MLS, we're hitting crunch time. International football coming up. It's a great time to engage, watch, and of course, support. Good stuff this week, Terry. Thank you. Be careful on your motorcycle, and we'll do this again next week.
You're not going to let that go, are you?
Dude, I just need to see you. Easy rider. I don't know what the equivalent of Toronto's Orange City Chopper would be. You need to grow the big beard, big mustache. Look like an absolute baller.
Have a great baby stag.
Thank you. We will not be sharing stories on next week's podcast. On behalf of Terry Dunfield, our producer Erica, and Matt jumping on board as well. He was showing me a Liverpool mug a little bit earlier on. I'll forgive him for it. On behalf of all of us here at Toronto FC, this has been Come On You Reds. I am Gareth Wheeler, and we'll chat with you next week.